All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this special webinar by the Solidarity Budget. My name is Ivan. Thank you so much for joining us today. So let's get started on today's session. Okay, today's session is going to cover the Solidarity Budget in the isolation economy. This is a special budget webinar that we are doing since yesterday. Deputy Prime Minister Heng Swee Kiat has announced a special budget just for Singapore. So as always, we want to be able to start with a safe harbor statement today. The information provided today in this webinar is only meant for education and learning. I believe everyone should seek your own independent and legal accounting advice before conducting any business or investment decision. So once again, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Ivan. I'm a co-opted counselor for SG Tech. On this email here, you'll be able to find my email and my social ID if you need to reach me, or SG Tech as well. SG Tech is the premier trade association for the tech industry in Singapore. We are believing that, coming together in this COVID era, the tech sector is a very big part of our economy, and we're trying our best to adapt and help the technology landscape of Singapore so that we can help all Singapore SMEs itself grow in this time to survive as best as we can. Now, we have bundled all of this information under the isolation economy. The isolation economy is the SG Tech community effort to support SME and startups in Singapore. We have a series of items. We have articles, webinar, and courses available. Now, the next few webinars will be tomorrow. On 8 April, we have a webinar about working from home. And on 14 April, the following week, we have a COVID-19 contractual obligation webinar where we'll talk about how and what are the implications of the webinar available. What are the legal implications of the new COVID-19 bill means for businesses such as yourself. As well, for companies that need a bit more help, we have an SME course that we work together with SMU Academy to provide. It's a Skills Future supported course that provides you guys about financial survival, working from home, and adaptation for the isolation economy. As always, more information can be found on the website. After this survey itself, there will be a post-webinar industry survey. This is meant for all industry, not just SG Tech members and ICT firm. I would like to implore everyone to try your best to help us fill out this survey, as information collated from this survey help us present a stronger case for the government of Singapore, especially areas where SMEs are struggling, so that we are better able to support and help the community in this point of time. So a few other hygiene factors. The slides will be always available on isolation.sg after this webinar is over. A link will be sent to you guys as well after this webinar. A recording of this webinar is available as well. It will be made available about 2 hours after the session due to recording and feedback. And last but not least, thanks for keeping the questions alive. We will try our best to answer all the questions after the Q&A session is over. Kindly keep your questions and answers, and please help us by upvoting questions that you want us to try to answer for everyone. Okay, for those of you who are now staying at home, can I just implore everyone, if there's nothing else you can remember for today's session, please stay home. I stress again, I think it's all collective need for everyone who's living in Singapore right now to try our best to follow the government directive as this circuit breaker to stay at home to reduce the pain. Right, the faster that we all get our act together, the better it is that we can resume the economy on 5th May. So stay home, reduce the pain, only go out for essential services. So today for our budget webinar, I will be recapping, for those of you who did not join us the previous time, about COVID-19, the overview of the Singapore government solidarity budget, measures to tide through the crisis, and helping items that's already been announced in the previous 2 budgets. So let's get started. I try to keep this session as short as possible, as today is the first day that we are all undergoing circuit breakers. And a lot of it, yesterday special budget was really quite short. So really more of a recap session than a full-blown impact understanding of the budget itself. As well, I'm only going to cover for businesses. I will not be able to speak or answer about items with regards to individual and personal for the budget for this session. So COVID-19 and understanding the impact on our economy. Now, apologize for those of you who attended the previous session, but a quick recap is that we are likely headed for a major global recession. The uncertainty continues in the US market and European markets. Majority of polled economists believe that we are heading for a major recession. Just looking at the US figure, the number of unemployed individuals claiming claims from the US government is even more than the 2008 global financial crisis. So we are really in an unprecedented time, and it's even more than before. Now, for us in Singapore, yesterday, Minister Heng Swee Kiat did not adjust the GDP because the quarter is not up yet, but he did warn that the recession might be even worse and that we might have even more negative growth. I believe they're dealing with a lot of uncertainty. They are unable to at least estimate the impact of how this circuit breaker will work and if we need to be extended. So once again, stay home, save life, reduce the pain for everyone. To recap, the last major recession that Singapore had was in 2001. The stock market has declined significantly in this year. The major indexes, although we have a rebound yesterday, are still all down. The economic impact for the reason why we are seeing all of this pain, as a recap last time, is that unlike the global financial crisis, we are now having more than a supply side shock. A supply side shock is where your supply curve goes down, for example, such as a bubble, which was created in 2008. But unfortunately for COVID-19, both the supply side and the demand side is dropping. Now, the reason for this is that majority of us are uncertain in the market, we are unwilling to spend. The whole general economy is going into a retardation cycle. This is the fundamental attack on the frictionless of the market. And unlike a supply side shock, it will be lasting way worse and way more pain. So once again, if you cannot remember anything, please stay home. This is also different from SARS. For the first time, this is a global pandemic, and the importance of China today is drastically different. The global pandemic, compared to SARS, is that majority of economy cycles are now affected. Just yesterday, the number of deaths in the US has surpassed 10,000 deaths. So we are seeing a much more global impact from the recession this time than ever before. China today is, of course, more important than any point in time in history. We are underestimating we cannot underestimate the impact of China today. Just for example, in Singapore, even though Chinese tourist arrival is less than 20% of arrival, but they take up more than 40% of our spending pattern in the tourism sector. So today, we are facing a unique new challenge that is unlike any point in time in history before. The isolation economy also caused an even bigger age-wide gap depend right now. Now, high-income and high-skilled workers have much more options to work from home than our lower-income and lower-skilled workers. Just look at the percentile here from the McKinsey research and the US Bureau of Labor. We are seeing a polarizing world of global effect. The best thing that we can do right now is listen to the government and stay home so that we can best rebound from this cycle. The demand side leading to this supply side shock growth is seen as a blur. The trillion-dollar question now is when the economy will rebound again. My recommendation for majority of us is that we now need to survive for the next 6 to 18 months. Take advantage of the situation, adapt, and then post-economic crisis, resume the cycle itself. Before I go on to the measures for businesses, as well, I'll talk to give an update on how the Singapore government is spending the reserve and spending the current crisis. So in this current term of government, the government estimated surplus before COVID-19 during the budget was about $7 to $11 billion. That was the surplus we have on the current term of government. As you can hear from all the different times that the Minister Heng Swee Kiat has announced, the budget this time is significant. The only 2 times that we did ask from the reserve was in 2008 during the global financial crisis, where we had a bank guarantee using the reserve to back all deposit, and during the global financial crisis. Today, there are 3 budgets announced already. I want to also point out that Minister Heng Swee Kiat, when he announced the resilient budget, he was prepared to increase and support the Singapore companies. Yesterday, during his budget speech, he made no mention about even more additional budget. I think as fellow Singaporeans right now, it's so important for us that even though we are lucky enough to have a reserve ready, it's so important to not expect that we might get another budget. I think the cost to the government this time is unprecedented. An additional $5.1 billion was announced yesterday, of which $4.2 billion were to businesses to save jobs. So once again, Minister didn't announce additional budget measures or whether the government will announce a 4th budget in this point in time. So I think it's very important for us to really stay home to make our case, to make sure that we don't have to do another budget. $21 billion is being drawn from the reserve. This is drawn from the reserve here, not using the surplus from this current term of government. This is the largest we've ever drawn from the reserve. All right, I believe it is very significant. If you look at the size of our currency reserve, this is a significant amount. So once again, we've been saving for this rainy time, but let us use it prudently as well. For those of you who are really keen, this is how the $21 billion is cost. You'll realize that majority of it, once again, is to save jobs, right? The key pin of all of this is, of course, the $16 million for the job support scheme that we're paying to employers to keep jobs, $1 billion for the self-employed individuals, and of course, $900 million for individuals and households that every Singaporean will get $900 in the costing itself to go through this crisis. So once again, significant budget, significant amount. Ask that all Singaporeans use the budget prudently and so that we can get through this time together. All right, let's get started. So let's talk about the measures to tide through the current crisis. Once again, this yesterday announcement really had only 5 points. So I'll be recapping all the 5 points from yesterday announcement and of course, the resilient budget. All right. Helping enterprise to retain their employees is a keystone of the Singapore government budget since the start of the Unity budget, the resilient budget, and of course, yesterday's solidarity budget. So for businesses owners, I have highlighted to you in blue and red the changes impacted yesterday. All right. First thing first, job support scheme was announced in the Unity budget, whereby it was only for 3 months and it was at 8% for the first 3 months. All right, the 3 months was October to December 2019. That means that there's nothing else you can have done, but it was already been paid out. During March budget, it was increased to 25% and increased a new period for 9 months. Yesterday, because we are now in a circuit breaker, it has been increased to 75% for this month only. The month of April 2020, all employers, regardless of your industry you're working, will get 75% cash grant on local employees up to $4,600. This amount will not be paid out so soon. It will be paid out in June 2020. All right, I stress again, 75% for 1 month, payout in June 2020. So if we were to look at the next slide here, we can get a sensing of how the thing is this. The first tranche of payment that employees will get is very soon. By April 2020, you will get your first tranche. This is for the period of October, November, December 2020. There is no additional thing you could have done because the computation has already been calculated. Majority of us will get it at 25% unless we are in the aviation or the food and beverage industry itself. The next tranche of payment will be in July 2020. There is no change in payment. It will be for the month of February, March, and April. For the month of February and March, you will get 25%, and for the month of April, you will get 75% of basic income. I always get the same set of questions. Basic income doesn't include allowance, doesn't include employers' CPF contribution. It really is the basic income of employees based on CPF records. Next is who else get an additional tier. The food service sector get a 50% additional tier, while the aviation sector get 75% additional tier itself. All right, the airline industry and the food and beverage industry itself. These two get additional tier. Now, this 50% for those of you who are in this sector, and this 75% applies for 8 months. All right, that means that for last year and this year, it will be for 8 physical months. For the rest of us, we will get 8 months of 25% and 1 month of 75% itself. Now, unfortunately, there are restrictions for this. Some of us do not qualify for the job support scheme. Basically, if you own your business, you don't qualify. Sole proprietor and partners of a partnership do not qualify for the job support scheme if you are an employee as well. All right, but if you are sole proprietor or partnership that hires Singaporeans or Singaporean PR, you will still get the job support scheme for your employees. The most important question that employees of private limited company ask me is, what if I'm a shareholder and a director? IRA areas cannot be clearer on this. If you are both a shareholder and a director of the company, you do not qualify for the JSS scheme. What if you are only a shareholder, employee, or director and employee? Clearly, in this case, you will then qualify for the job support scheme. I believe that there is no appeal process for this. So if you fall within any of these three categories, including self-employed, which covers under the self-employed scheme, you will not be able to qualify for the job support scheme claims. Now, the other policies before we go to the foreign workers levy are the same. I'll quickly run through with you guys before we take questions. The wage credit scheme helps company pay for wage increase. I believe that even in this tough time, some companies are thriving. Now, I would like to spend more time on this situation. Wage credit scheme is different from the job support scheme. So technically speaking, for this financial year, you might be able to get double the claim for an individual employee if you were to pay his increase in salary this year. Now, I'll give you an example. So for example, in the financial year 2019, you have an employee on payroll for at least 3 months itself. Sorry, let me draw this. You have an employee on the payroll for at least 3 months last year in 2019. Now, if you have an employee on this year for the 3 months and they so happen to be on the job support scheme, the increase in salary, you will be given 15% of the coverage. So technically speaking, 25% plus 15% of the job support scheme plus 15%, you will get a one-time coverage of about 40% of the person's salary in this situation here. All right, so this is a good opportunity for employers thinking about increasing salary. It might be an opportunity to pay out the salary. Here's a work example. So for example, if you were to increase the salary by about $800 in this financial year, the government of Singapore will help you pay the increase for the full financial year itself. Good time to think about giving a wage credit scheme for individuals, employees, and employers. The payout has also been brought forward. Those of you who give salary increase last year, 20% of the salary increase was paid for by the government. You should have already received a payout via PayNow or Giro by RIAS. The next payout, which is for this financial year, will be brought forward for FY 2020 to 30th June, sorry, my mistake here, 2021. So you'll be able to get it by next year, it's been pushed out forward. So I want to also now spend some time to talk about working capital loan. The government yesterday in a point 3 increased the risk share and increased the extension of period. I added in a new slide to talk about how the working capital loan, the different working capital loan available. So bear with me. So there are 3 available loans that the government of Singapore has increased the risk share. That means that in the event of default by the SME owners, the government of Singapore will take on more risk of it. The most common amount of working capital loan that all of us will qualify for is the SME working capital loan. It has been increased to $1 million, and the risk share of the government of Singapore is now at 90%. The idea is that the hope that banks will be more willing to lend to individuals in this point of times. All right. The next loan available is then the working capital loan, or what I call the bridging loan. It previously was only applied to the tourism and aviation sector. Today, in the resilient budget, it has been announced that it will be given to every sector. The increased line of credit is now at $5 million. I also want to stress that the interest rate is a fixed 5%, and it might be further reduced if the bank allows. I understand that certain banks are offering as low as 3.5%, but please call your bankers to talk about this. Next up, sorry, let me clear the annotation, is then, of course, the other loans that majority of us might not qualify for is the Enterprise Trade Loan Program. These are for larger enterprise. They basically help you finance your trade and overseas working capital. The loan quantum has increased from 5 million to 10 million, and the risk share again has been increased. The loan insurance scheme is not touched. The risk share is at 80%. Now, what is new here, which I want to point out to you, is a framework for you to decide what kind of loan qualification. By all means, please talk to your bankers about this. I'm not able to give you an accurate picture in case of misquoting, but the tier of capital loan financing should be in this format. The first loan for majority of SME owners will be the working capital loan. This is the first loan line qualification. My understanding is that if your firm revenue is up to $5 million, this will be the first line of credit that you get. Obviously, you might not qualify for the full $1 million quantum. Majority of us will be much lower than that, but that's the first line of qualification. The next line of qualification is the temporary bridging loan program. That's for company firms above $5 million. So this will be for bridging loan. And the last but not least is for the enterprise trade loan. I believe majority of our audiences here, the enterprise trade loan program is not meant or geared towards us. So this will be the first three line of loans. I've heard SME today also take, if they already have working capital loan, they will go to the bank, ask for another working capital loan, either a refinancing, and then pay off the existing working capital loan. The rationale for doing this is very ideal right now, given that the working capital loan ratio interest rate has dropped significantly. So something to talk to your bankers about. I strongly recommend that given this time that all of us are in circuit breaker and staying at home, take a phone call your bankers and see what can be done to adjust the interest rate in this situation here. All right. Now, the corporate income tax has also been reduced this year. The payments to the Singapore government has given us a 25% tax rebate for this financial year and capped at $15,000. Now, this is for year of assessment 2020. Your tax return is due in November this year. So this is based on profit that you make for financial year 2019. There is nothing you need to do. It's automatically administered by IRAS. On top of that, another new measurement is that for last year's corporate income tax, meaning for the financial year 2018 or year of assessment 2019, your income tax has been deferred for 3 months. You should not be paying income tax installment for this 3 months. All right, you should be having no installment payment for your income tax this month. Once again, it's automatic and it should be done by the companies. For those companies who really need even more installment payments for your financial year 2018, year of assessment 2019, please speak to IRAS. I believe there are certain measures in place to help you with this as well. Rental waivers has also been increased in the resilient budget to 3 months and 2 months. Shall not cover this amount here. And of course, property tax rebate are now at 100% for tourism and 30% for commercial properties. Today, the Parliament will be sitting for a special COVID-19 bill to making sure that tenants and landlords have to give the full amount of rebates to tenants itself. More information will be covered in next week's webinar by Jonathan Cole from Kakao Wong and Partners in the next session itself. Now, how do you calculate and understand how much is the percentage of property tax? You need to know two numbers. That is the property value, or what I call the annual value, and the assessment value. So very good news for everyone is if you go to IRAS website today, you can actually pay $2.50 to calculate the assessed value of the property that you're on. So get the assessed value from your landlord or pay $2.50 to IRAS to get assessed value and use a simple tax calculator to see how much your landlord is saving in property tax. This should be the amount that they are passing back to you. But of course, please do note that in this troubling time, is a negotiation. Recommend SME owners use this opportunity to also ask your landlord for additional income rental rebate in this situation here. Now, for those of you who were in my previous seminar on webinar, I want to make a clarification. I make a big mistake, and this is why I always give a disclaimer. The government of Singapore is not waiving government fees and charges. I thought that it was the phasing was a bit weird. The government of Singapore is freezing the increase of government fees and charges. Government fees and charges are still to be collected. Government fees and charges include school fees, parking charges, applying for passport. Once again, there is no, the government is still collecting the fees and charges. I made a mistake in my previous webinar. I apologize. They are just freezing any usual inflation increase they are for the financial year. As well, the government of Singapore has further clarified that fees and charges does not apply to government-linked corporations or IHLs. Organizations like Ngee Ann Polys or Singapore Management Universities, the IHL, may continue increasing school fees this year as they are not statutory board. So I make a mistake, please take note that you still have to pay fees and charges for this financial year. Okay, moving on to other stuff. productivity solution grants. There will be an increase in productivity solution grant coverage. It is now at 80% for existing vendors already on the list for the financial year 1st April to the 31st December. If you were to apply today for PSG, you can get it. On our side, SG Tech, we are working very furiously with our Go Digital team to get other new solutions such as online collaboration to temperature monitoring and queue management software quickly on the PSG lists as well. But in the interim, we understand that there's an application period for productivity solution grant. Can I recommend people to go on this link here to, I'll flash out a link, go to the SG Tech website. We have a special COVID-19 page with solution free. Companies such as Microsoft and Cisco have provided free solution in this time for SMEs to be able to go digital quickly without having to pay for anything for the solution for a period of time. So recommend you guys to do that. For ICT vendors who are interested to be in these 4 areas, once again, please email us, info@sgtech, and we can talk to you guys about getting you on the productivity solution grant package itself. Quickly going through, the enterprise development grant will be increased from 70 to 80%. This was already announced in the resilient budget. The 90% will be on a case-to-case basis for certain firms most impacted by COVID-19. I would think that the firm basis, given how now we are 3 months, will be companies such as tourism sectors and F&B sectors who are thinking about taking on projects right now. All right. Okay, moving on. The waiver of foreign workers levy. This was newly announced yesterday. Now, the job support scheme doesn't include your S-Pass and Work Pass permit workers working for you. I say again, the job support scheme is only for Singaporean and Singaporean PR. So the government of Singapore, for this point in time, has given 2 things. Number 1, you do not need to pay any foreign worker levy for April 2020. Since they probably will be at home and probably not be the most productive right now. Number 2, if you already have paid some form of foreign worker levy in the financial year 2020, meaning January, February, March 2020, they will give you a one-off $750 rebate per employee that are on S-Pass or work permit for this year. It's a one-time thing and is per employee only. Given now, there are questions, what if you are the owner, shareholder, director of the firm, and you are also on the S-Pass holder? Unfortunately, IRAS has not clarified that point yet, so I'm not able to comment on that point. So quickly wrapping up our session, there are other budget announced in 2020, the Unity and Resilient budget. I want to quickly go to Q&A before this. So the medium term stays the same. I want to talk to you guys about a few other measures the government has given for this financial year itself. So the double tax deduction for internationalization still stays. Majority of us always forget about the DTDI. So for example, if you apply for MRA grant of 10,000, you will get double the tax benefit after the subsidies is cut. Now, I believe that majority of us will not be embarking on any internationalization effort for this financial year. But something to take note that the good news is that it has been extended all the way till 31st December 2025. So even after COVID is over, hopefully companies will start seeking back measurements to go internationalization. Okay. Now, another thing that the government has given this year is an accelerated write-off. Those of you interested in having and purchasing asset, you can actually quickly depreciate it on a faster basis this year. The MRA grant has also been increased this year to cover up to 70% and $100,000. Activities has also been increased in scope. More information on the Enterprise Singapore website. Want to talk to something new? The Enterprise Leadership for Transformation Program, the ERT Program, has now also been ready itself. Enterprise Singapore will be opening the application very soon. This is a special program for executive training, coaching, and support network. It's a 9-month program to help SMEs scale up with dedicated coaching by the Institute of Higher Learning. Okay, the Skills Future for Enterprise Credit will, unfortunately, in the 2 budget, it has not been announced that they will be pushed forward. So it will still be dispersed in October 2020. Imagine it as a Skills Future for individual. You have a piggy bank set aside for $10,000 credit to pay for 90% out-of-pocket expenses. Not for all programs, only eligible programs. I can tell you, eligible programs so far is Productivity Solution Grants, Enterprise Leadership Transformation Projects, and a few other sectoral specific programs itself. So here is a few examples. If you were to buy a $10,000 productivity solution grant, and the productivity solution grant is at 80%, you pay $2,000 and you can use your SFEC credit to pay 90% of the remaining 20% itself. I want to also take note here that Skills Future and Enterprise Credit isn't going to be given for all employers. Okay, not all companies will qualify for SFEC. You need to have already contributed a certain level of skills development funds for the financial year 2019 before you qualify for this. All right, so here's a work example. Last but not least, we have a PCP program. I believe that our current PCP program, Professional Conversion Program for digital sales, has already started. But for those of you thinking about joining our next cycle, we have a special program just for this area in digital sales. I believe this cannot come at a better time. So the government of Singapore will provide you up to 90% of salary support for 6 months if you were to help us hire new employees, in this case, especially the PMETs. All right, sorry, I cannot really draw very well in this situation here. So it's 90% salary support, and also the total fee payable will be much reduced in this point in time. So talk to us if you're interested in the PCP program for conversion itself. The next PCP intake is 2020. Once again, we do not have the date for the next intake, but if you are interested, please talk to us. I'll circulate the circular as well after this session is over. And last but not least, SG Tech together with IMDA has come out a new package of solution packages. We have more than 30 vendors right now giving solution for free. Please scan this QR code or go to the SG Tech website to be able to see this. Okay. Once again, thank you so much for sharing with me and joining us this session. I would now like to spend the next 20 minutes to take questions. I think it's more ideal. Much less questions today, but yes. Okay, so SG Tech is our Premium Trade Association. Do check out the Isolation Economy and help us do the post-webinar industry survey. All right, let us get started on some questions. The JSS, the question number 1 is from Sewa. JSS is not applicable for shareholder and director of companies. In this case, do they qualify for the self-employed $9,000 support? So this is an accounting question. So for example, you have a private limited company, let's call it ABC Private Limited, and you are the shareholder and director of the shareholder company. All right, you will not qualify for the JSS, for the job support scheme. You're not going to get anything. All right. Now, do you then qualify for the self-employment SEP thing? You might. The condition is that for the SEP, you need to be able to have income for the financial year lower than a certain amount. I'm not able to comment here on what is the amount. My apologies, as I do not have it in front of me. 1 second, let me just do a quick check on that. Hold on. Yes, if you have trade income below $21,000, you might have a situation that you qualify for the SEP, but that also will be a very narrow scenario. So if you really want to check whether you qualify, you can drop me an email and I'll respond to you individually. Okay, Suning Arul, can you please share which banks offer 3.5 interest rate? I think Maybank SME loans are offering, that's what I heard from a quoted website and a quoted source. Once again, please do not quote me. And I think Eugene has also mentioned that DBS has gone down to about 3%. So I believe the 3.5% interest rate, by the way, this is not effective interest rate. This is top line interest rate. So effective will still be about 7% when you calculate it. This will be all the other banks. If they're not giving you competing sources in this amount, I recommend you to talk to the other banks as well. All right. Okay. Recording will be shared after this session, not to worry. Thank you very much. Okay. Carolyn has asked me a question. If the 750 rebate is on top of the waiver of levy in April, if yes, when will we get the rebate and is it a fixed amount? Yes. Okay, first thing first, the $750, I assume you're talking about the foreign worker levy, right? Rebate. There's two things. First thing first is a rebate. you don't have to pay any foreign worker levy for S-Pass and work permit holder for the month of April this month, all right? But on top of that, you will also get $750 per S-Pass or work permit worker for this financial year. So it's two things. You don't have to pay for this month, and end of this month, hopefully, you will get also a $750 rebate per S-Pass or work permit holder. It's a one-time thing, and it will be the same. Loheng asked me about defer home. I will not be able to talk about that. I'm sorry about that. All right. Okay, so this is done. Thank you, Caroline. Answer your questions. My company has a mix of employees who are director plus shareholder as well as just regular employees. So only the director and shareholder are exempted, right? The other locals still qualify for JSS. Yes. So if you a lot of startups have this situation whereby your shareholders, your employees also get 1 or 2% of your company as employee stock option, and they're Singaporean and Singaporean PR. Of course, they qualify for the JSS support. The rationale I would think is that for listed companies like Singtel, the reason why there's such policy is so that even if you are owner in a list co, like a stock exchange shareholder, you also qualify for that. So yes, you qualify as long as they're not officer or company, meaning you are not both a director and a shareholder of the company itself. All right. Oops, sorry, my thing's. Okay. I think Zoom is hanging on me. I apologize. Someone asked me, are you aware of any banks who offer working capital loan without personal guarantee? Unfortunately, no. All working capital loan tend to be with personal guarantee. There is no situation where it's not. Okay. Oh gosh, Zoom has just crashed. The Q&A function has just crashed on me. I apologize for that. Okay. Okay. Our experience with loan is that all the required personal guarantee for 100% of the loan by director on top of 90% by government. In tech and particular VC back, this does not work. We remain confused here. Yes, unfortunately, once again, right, I think everyone's very, it's not guaranteed or not guaranteed. Yeah. This is very different from the global financial crisis where the government of Singapore is actually guaranteeing loans itself. Okay. What the government is doing is they are backing the default risk for the banks. Let's say Bank A loan you $1 million and you default on it, right? Two things happen. First thing first, the bank can straight away go to the government and say, hey, I can get back from you 90% because this loan has defaulted. So the bank loan you $1 million. Let's say you really never pay a single cent on the loan and you defaulted. The bank first thing first will get a lien of 900K from the government of Singapore. Now, the reason why is a risk sharing factor of that is because the banks need capital to continue doing loans. You are not off the hook. It's not like the government come and chase after you. That you as a director of the company are probably personally liable for the loan sale and 100% of the loan. The banks will work out with you going through bankruptcy court or whatever scenario to still try to claim back the money from you. As they claim back the money from you, and usually when a working capital loan is and your company goes through insolvency and the working capital loan become a personal loan, what happens is that the bank will work with you on about a 5 years term loan that they treat it as your personal name between the directors, and then they will slowly claw back from you the amount month by month. As they claw back from you the amount month by month, they will then pay back the government of Singapore the risk factor itself. So this is how it works. So yes, unfortunately, it doesn't help a startup situation. I believe this is unfortunate. Being a member of the startup community is very unfortunate. I believe you should talk to ACE or talk to SG Tech, drop us a mail and we can see what we can do. But yes, this whole loan setup once again is to help more traditional SME with a stable cash flow before the crisis and to help them go through this crisis scenario together. All right. Okay. Oh, great. This is done. So yes, this is done. Dismiss. Okay. So Singwei, I hope this is I'll answer your question about it. There is really nothing to be confused about. Unfortunately, it really just majority of startups who need loans now, the banks will probably not be a source of avenue for you. Once again, because you have no previous record of income, and it's just the way the structuring of it works. Can the bridging loan be split and make to different director guarantee? Wasing, please talk to, of course, please talk to the banks about it. but my own personal experience is, with other SMEs who have taken loans so far is usually the banks, when they loan you, say $1 million in a bridging loan or whichever loan they have, each director is fully and individually liable for it. So you cannot say that, let's say you default, 50% of it goes to director A and 50% of it goes to director B. The banks don't do it this way. The protection of the banks is, of course, something that the banks will think of it in their own interest. So when you default, what usually, let's really touch you again that people don't default, but what happens in a default scenario is the banks will talk to both directors who sign, say, let's say you have two directors who sign the loan amount, they will talk to you both as a director and see how they can come out. Yeah, and the percentage of loan, right, can be in any combination. Obviously, it gets a bit messy, but it can be director A being a bigger shareholder, take 70% of the risk, and director B take 30%. But of course, when you sign the loan, each of you, once again, are personally liable for full 100%. So let's say you have a director who is not Singaporean and take on the loan and really touch wood, he runs away, you are still on the hook for the full 100%. Okay, so you usually cannot split the issue itself. Next question for Hao Ming, JSS cash grant of 75%. Any action needed from SME, automatic disperse. Now, how is it dispersed is this? If you already have a situation where you have gyro, meaning if you pay income tax to IRAS via gyro, it will be back to the same account that you pay gyro. For those of you who, for a new company who have never paid gyro to income tax before, you'll be given as a check. So what can you do is this right now in this current time? Because the first payout is coming very soon, I don't think you qualify. But those of you who don't have a gyro arrangement with IRAS, can you all please log into IRAS right now? Go to my log into IRAS using a corp pass under my tax, download the gyro form, and please submit it to IRAS so they can disperse the payment for you. All right, thank you. The foreign worker levy, same thing. Any application, no application needed. Nothing in the JSS and the wage credit scheme. Basically, the three items administered by RAS, which is the job support scheme, the wage credit scheme, and the foreign worker levy rebate are automatically calculated. The only thing you can do with IRAS is appeal if you believe it's been wrongly calculated, which I do not think will be the case. Okay. Working capital loan requires a personal guarantee from director, which not be favorable. Are there any ways around it? No, I have not seen anybody in this group here. If you have seen a bank that has given the ability to waive off that, please let me know. But personally speaking, I speak to the 5 banks in Singapore. Everyone still have personal director guarantee. Pravin asked me, hi Ivan, are the SME loans only for profit making companies? I want to be a bit more clear here. The loans are for companies and companies limited by guarantee. CLG companies can also apply for the loans. Okay, but of course the banks have different risk assessment framework. If you are a social enterprise, you are probably an exempt private limited company, so obviously you qualified for it. But if you are a non-profit and you are asking me about this, I think that will be a bit tougher. In this situation here, please talk to National Council of Social Service if you are non-profits and you really need a capital loan, because usually banks don't use bridging loan to help non-profits in this way. There are other mechanisms to support that. So yes. Now, if a question is if you have been losing money as a startup for the last 3 years and you're going to ask the bank for the working capital loan, the bridging loan, or the enterprise trade loan, you probably will not qualify for it, unfortunately. For workers of work permit, does it apply to domestic workers? Yes, it's a very good question. Honestly speaking, it is not addressed. I will get back to you on answer eventually, but I'm actually unclear of it. All right, I'm so sorry for that. Many of the staff founders are shareholder and employees with a registered private limited. What are the schemes eligible to secure for the next 6 to 18 months? Unfortunately, no scheme available. There is nothing much you can do for startups. I really am okay. I really am. I went through a few of the policies already, and I've seen through the government notes for this area, as in the minister's speeches. Once again, a lot of the scheme, if not all the schemes, are meant for profit making company. If you are startups and you're not making money yet, and you are the sole founder, I understand this is very, very tough time. Please drop us a mail. We can see what we can do. But yes, unfortunately, not much relief for you in the startup world. In the previous downturn, government took the lead and spent so much so that the economy could be stimulated. Can actually take the lead and feedback to government to speed up the expenditure? So what I think the government is keeping the purchases as per normal. I cannot answer for them, but if you believe this is something that the government should continue buying IT services for, please drop us a mail at info@sgtech.org.sg. Thank you very much. Woon Woon asked me, hi Evan, to confirm, directors who are also employees are not eligible. Let me stress again. If you are a director of the company and also a shareholder and you draw a salary, a CPF salary, you are not eligible. Director fees is not a salary. Director fee obviously do not qualify for the job support scheme. Okay. Now, if you are the managing director of the company and the director of the company and you are an employee, but you own no share of the company, you qualify for the JSS. If you are a shareholder of the company, but you don't have a directorship role, meaning you own 5% of the company as a local employee in the startup, and you're working for the startup with a basic salary and you don't have a directorship, you also qualify for JSS. It's only for SME owners who are both director, shareholder, and employee. If you are in this Venn diagram of 3, you don't qualify for JSS. Okay? Next question, as many of the startup founders have most of the employee owning ESOP or part, can we still go ahead and claim? The one sheet, you don't have to claim for the JSS once again, it's automatically calculated. All right, it's automatically calculated. So you will be able to see your first check very soon in this month itself. Okay, what Wee Ting asked me, what about one-person businesses? For example, a self-employed designer who doesn't have a fixed salary. I suppose I only qualify for the 1K per month portion of the resilient budget. Yes, Wee Ting. Okay, I give you a hypothetical example. Majority of freelancers also own a little sole proprietorship to collect salary, right? So if you are a sole proprietorship and you're a one-person business and sole proprietorship, you yourself don't get the job support scheme or the wage credit scheme because you are a sole proprietorship. You are a shareholder, you're the owner of the sole proprietorship, you don't qualify for that. All right, unfortunately. Now, but then as a sole proprietor and if you're a freelancer, you might qualify for the self-employed individual. The self-employed individual is $9,000, but it's not really $1,000 a month. They'll be given to you in 3 tranches of 3,000, 3,000, and 3,000. The qualification is if for the year of 2019, you are self-employed and you don't draw salary, you draw trade income. So if you own a sole proprietorship and you draw trade income in that scenario, because it's a trade income in your income tax form, you do then qualify for the SEP support. I hope that helped clarify the questions there. A few more questions. Would employees whose CPF submission was late qualify for JSS? Yes, a very good question. If you look at my slide in above, I will download this slide or go to the IRAS website. There is a cut-off period for assessing. So I understand in this troubling time, a lot of people are paying CPF late. Once again, please do not do that if possible because there's a penalty involved. There's an interest penalty, but there's a cut-off time. So for obviously the cut-off date for October, November, December is done. For the month of October, November, December 2019, to qualify for the 25% job support scheme, it was February 15, if I'm not wrong. That means that on February 15, IRAS went to CPF and say, hey, these are the employers who already pay all the CPF and will qualify for that. For the month of February, March, and April, which is the next CPF qualification, I believe the dates is on IRAS website. I cannot recall right now, but yes, as long as you contribute your CPF submission for the month of February, March, and April before the buy date for the 3 months, you will qualify for the job support scheme. Last but not least, okay, we have some more questions. SME who do not have ESOP for shareholder but is a working director can qualify for JSS? Yes, you can. If you're SME, you have 5% share in the company. Working director is a very legally ambiguous term. When IRAS say director, basically, if you go to ACRA today and you are a director of the company in the ACRA records, you are considered director. If you are managing director in name, but you're actually not a director of the company in the ACRA record, that is what I call a director of a company, but not a director in the ACRA records, and you qualify for JSS. I hope that helps. Any calculator to calculate JSS due to company? We probably can do a quick Excel sheet. I've been working on it for a while. I will circulate it later if you guys are interested, and you can do a quick calculation of it. All right. I think good idea. I don't know why IRS has not created it, so let me just create a quick Excel sheet for you guys in this situation. Give me today. Please share the email address where we need to follow up on the one-on-one for self-employed subsidies or grant. Self-employed subsidies or grant is basically the SIRS, the SEP Income Relief Scheme. There is really no email available. The IR is automatically calculated based on your financial year 2019, meaning this year of assessment 2020 RIAS tax submission as an individual. So there is really no email involved. If you want more information, it's available on the RIAS website and MOM website, but there is really not much, there is really no go-to source to help you in this aspect. I would believe that the best authority to talk to right now probably will be NTUC Freelancer Union Group, so maybe talk to them for that. Okay, I think we've answered all the Q&A. First time we managed to do in time. Okay, let me just quickly reply a few things here on the things. Keith Tron asks, hi, just wonder why the session hour so strange, like 12:30. Weirdly enough, SGTech we did some of our internal polling and our own research. We found that lunchtime webinar is the most effective in terms of sign up. So this is why it's lunchtime. A lot of you can have a tapao lunch and watch me speak in this situation here. Is it isolation.sg? The link shown on the slide is misspelled. Yes, Zach, my apologies. As you can imagine, I was rushing out this slide once again, so my apologies. We'll update the correct one later. Grace Su, property tax rebate. Can you share again how the calculation is done? Okay, how to calculate your property tax rebate. For those of you interested in attending tomorrow webinar or working from home, I will put a slide on it because I have not enough time to do it, but it's very simple. You need a calculator, you need to know two numbers. The first thing first is the property annual value. So go to RIAS website, search for annual value. Click on the link, pay $2.50, and IRAS will calculate for you the current property that you're on, the annual value for commercial properties. Okay, so the annual value, assuming a shop house, for example, that is F&B in nature itself, it will be say 100K. Okay, so 100K is the annual value, but obviously your landlord is not paying 100K to the government of Singapore. The property tax on it is you then Google commercial property tax calculator, type in the property annual value, the postal code, and then you will know what is the property tax for the year. So usually for commercial property, the annual value property tax is 10%. So once again, property annual value is 100K, your property tax is 10%. Therefore, the amount that your landlord is supposed to pay RIAS for property tax on the commercial property is $10,000, 10% of 100K. Now, that 10%, because this year is 100% rebate, therefore, the $10,000 should then be sent back to the tenant in terms of a rental rebate. Okay, so that is how you calculate the property tax for commercial property. Okay, I hope that answered it to Grace. Okay, well, take last questions before we end today's session. Hi, Ivan. One question. May I clarify? You mentioned earlier that the self-employed grant is a grant automatic enrollment, hence we can't apply for it. Yes, Stephen. Okay, once again, the self-employed person, SEP for short, gets a special grant called SIRS, the Self-Employed Person Income Relief Scheme. I know it's a mouthful. If you guys really want me to cover that in a special webinar, drop me an email. We need to see anyone is interested in that but yes, we probably can talk about that in a separate section. You cannot apply for it. It's automatically calculated based on your income tax provision for the financial year 2019 or your IRAS submission for this year. So there's nothing you can do. Can you appeal if you don't fall in the conditions of it? Yes, you can appeal on a case-by-case basis on the IRAS website. So first thing first, you need to submit your income tax return first. You need to assess it first. Stephen asks, what if your YA 2020 is not submitted yet? Yes, once again, you need to submit in first because once again, your personal income tax deadline is 15 April. File your property tax, file your income tax for year assessment 2020 first, and then you will know whether you qualify for the SEP. Then you will be able to appeal if you don't qualify, and then the government can say yes or no after that. Hope that helps the questions. Okay, Devan, thanks. Please share your email ID. Once again, my email ID is ivan@isolation.sg, and please CC info@sgtech email as well. Can we get the SGTech secretariat to type it in the group chat here? Thank you. Does the enhanced rental waiver of 1 month apply to owner of industrial property that pay land rent to JTC? Yeah, okay, that is a very specific question. JTC was not really mentioned by the government of Singapore. They really mean URA and EDB, because JTC technically is a spin-off. So please check on that with the JTCs. I shall not comment on it. Jacqueline has so kindly given me the link. I'm going to paste it here for everyone as well. Okay, answer live. Thanks, Jacqueline. Thanks, this. Okay, guys, just nice. We reached 1:30. I'll still here. For those of you who have finished this session, thank you so much for sharing with us. Can I implore everyone once again to please, when you close off this browser, you'll be directed to the post-webinar industry survey. If not, please help me just take a phone, scan the QR code available on the link here to quickly do the survey. This survey is very important to us. It helps us understand the market better for it as well. Saping, you have raised hands. I think some of you guys want to ask questions. Ivan, email ID, sure, ivan@isolation.sg. Thank you. I have email put in there. Answer live. Thanks. Okay, yeah, guys, thank you so much. Once again, thank you for joining SG Tech for this session. My name is Ivan. For those of you who are not members, please do consider joining us as a membership. We are giving a special rate for members this time. We are stronger together as a union, especially for tech companies. So please join us for that. Tomorrow, we'll be talking about working from home, some of the basic about working from home and maintaining our sanity as we all are stuck at home right now. So do join us for that. Same time, 12:30 to 1:30, where we cover tools such as webinar tools and conferencing tools to talk about it. And next Tuesday, we will then cover about the COVID-19 bill, which is going to be set in Parliament in a short while as well. So thank you very much all. I hope it was useful. I know it's a recap, but yesterday's sharing was very short, so not much to answer. Any more questions we have? Let me see. Stephen, my pleasure. Well, once again, I hope it was useful for everyone. Okay, thanks Ivan and SG Tech. It was very useful. Once again, it's our pleasure. I hope that you will share with us more about this. We always want to hear your feedback for this session as well. All right, thank you everyone. Without further ado, I will then lock off this screen sharing and then we can proceed with a thing. So stay home, stay safe, and thank you everyone.